and I love the draft. So does Andy Baskin of 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. You can follow Andy on Twitter at Andy_Baskin. Andy, before we get going, how are you and the family doing during all this?
We're doing good. We're hanging in. We haven't killed each other yet, so that's the big thing. If we could just get the tweet, which, by the way, I feel like we're doing 15 times a day, it'd be good. That's the only thing, little hiccup in our system here at the house is just getting the tween to do some dishes.
All right, here's the bigger question I have. Who's teaching? Because I know you have kids, and my wife's a veterinarian, so she has to work every day pretty much. So I am the kindergarten teacher of our 5-year-old daughter. Who is the teacher at the Baskin household?
So I got to tell you, my daughter's school is really good. I mean, I feel like she's doing more now than she actually did when she goes to her school. She's on Zoom all the time, and I feel like her class schedule has been pretty normal. And she keeps saying, Dad, I have more homework now than I did, if we were sitting in a classroom. Our son is kind of in and out. So I would say the best teacher that we have at our house right now is probably the Xbox.
Our son is kind of in and
Quote,
out, quote,
in and
unquote.
Out. Nice. That's a heck of a scouting
kind of
report
in and
right
out.
There. Yep.
It's not a great shout out for our school system that he's in right now.
Rollerblades. I know he likes hockey. Rollerblades, Andy. Let's get him skating. That's all we've got left.
He's killing it in phys ed right now. Killing it.
Hopefully it's one of those where you get an A in. It's not just satisfactory or unsatisfactory.
Unfortunately, one of the problems is the teachers keep drinking on the job. So if they would just stop doing that, we'd be okay.
That's a problem. That is a problem. Andy Baskin, 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Andy_Baskin on Twitter. All right, Browns, they've got a first, they've got a second, they've got 2/3. So they've got 4 picks in the top 100. The first one right now is number 10. Are they locked in at offensive tackle at number 10, or is there a chance for it to be someone else?
The only other person most of us believe it could be is Isaiah Simmons. If Isaiah Simmons is sitting there at 10, which I think it's a pipe dream if he's there at 10. But if he's there at 10, that would be the other guy they would take. So if all the offensive linemen are gone by then, which I don't think they will be, then they would maybe trade back. But those, I think, are the options right now for the Browns. It's Isaiah Simmons, one of 4 offensive tackles, or trade back.
Last was a disaster. Expectations were, as you look back upon it, far higher than they probably should have been. How has the offseason been, Andy? How have this group of Browns been able to handle failing for the first time when there was actually reasonable expectations of them?
So I think with, the change with John Dorsey leaving and Andrew Berry coming in, I think they've been able to kind of turn the page on last year. Now, the one person who truly needs to turn the page is your quarterback, Baker Mayfield. So he needs to be better this year than he was last year. And, I think when it comes down to it, the Browns showed signs of life throughout the season last year on the first drive of the game, time in and time out. And then things would fall apart after the scripted plays were over. So was it Freddie Kitchens? Was it Baker Mayfield? Who knows? Who knows what the issue was? But I think with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry running the show right now, at least in the off season, I think things seem to have mellowed out and that they have a plan. It feels like there's some adults in the room. It feels like that they're making good decisions. They made a lot of good decisions in free agency. And they're still, they're still kind of trying to feel this thing out. The only glaring need they have next year without having to build depth is left tackle. They need to find a left tackle. But if you look at some of the free agent moves they made, they're pretty stellar. I mean, Jack Coughlin coming in on the offensive line to play right tackle. They did something that I think they needed all season last year, and that's bringing a fullback. A fullback when they traded for Andy Janovich. So there are some good things going on with the Browns right now, and then we'll see how they fill in the rest of the defense. They've made some moves over there as well.
Well, I do like the fact if they're going to keep Conklin at right tackle because We have a friend of the show, Pat Kerwin, who says you don't sign a free agent and ask him to do something he hasn't already done. And Conklin's been a
Agree.
right tackle, so I hope the Browns just plug him in at right tackle, and there you go. How likely do you believe it is that the Browns do something big with either Clowney or a trade with Jacksonville for Ngoku? Do you think that the Browns would give up their second and the first of their third round picks for Ngoku from Jacksonville, a 25-year-old defensive lineman? Or, I keep waiting for the Browns to cut Olivier Vernon and sign Clowney. Vernon's counting 15 million, Andy, against the cap. So what if you give Clowney 18 or 20? I mean, you get a much better player for essentially $3 to $5 million.
So I wonder, they brought in Adrian Claiborne, too, from Atlanta. Now, he's not obviously out there to be a starter. He's in for spells. But if they believe that Vernon was hurt last year and that he's a lot better than what he was, and it'd be interesting to see if they play that out that way because obviously it's a different regime. And I know that, they've spent a lot of time talking about how we don't care who brought somebody in. Once they're with us now and we're here, everybody's a Cleveland Brown. But Olivier Vernon seems to fall into this black hole of outer space of what's going to happen into the future. I think you're right. I think a lot of us look at it the same way with Vernon, that if they can ship him out and bring in somebody better, why wouldn't you, especially if it's only for like $1 million or $1.2 million more? The question then becomes, what kind of a long-term deal can you do with Clowney? That's a big point. The other one is the Trent Williams kind of situation there that I just don't think – I don't get it. I don't understand the whole Trent Williams thing. If the Browns could have brought him in, it would have been nice to bring him in, but I don't think they want to pay the asking price. And I wonder at what point does Washington have to say, we're going to let him go? I mean, they could sit it out the whole year and say, all right, well, we're going to hang on to him, we'll let him eat it, and then let's see what kind of money he can get next year after being out of the league for 2 years and missing a lot of the season from his last year in the league. So it's kind of an enigma. I don't know what's going to happen with Trent Williams. I'm seriously starting to wonder what Washington thinks his value is and what they're going to be able to get back for him. Yeah. And if it's more fun for them just to eat it, just to let him sit out and not play.
Well, I don't know how it could be more fun, but Andy, I think you're on to something. And I do think when the Dolphins traded Tunsil, they got an overinflated opinion of what Williams was worth there, and they can't factor in age and 2 first-round picks and everything that went on with Tunsil because that trade was so bass-ackwards on the Dolphins or on Houston's part that it screwed up the whole order for what a tackle's actually worth, no matter what age he is. At the end of the day, do the Browns know what they want, though, Andy? Because you're talking about drafting the left tackle, trading for a left tackle. If a defensive guy's there, or going to get a Clowney. I mean, it seems like they're almost polar opposites of what they want. Do they know what they want?
Yeah, I think that they go into this draft thinking we need to get a left tackle at number 10. And if for some reason Isaiah Simmons is still sitting there, then we'll do it. Unless they have somebody rated out differently. Now, they had Andrew Berry spoke last week, and they don't seem to care if someone played right tackle in college. They think, and Andrew Berry said this last week, and it was one of his big lines, was a tackle is a tackle. So they don't care if someone played right tackle in college and left tackle, which is, if Tristan Wirfs is still there, there's a guy that split time on both sides. And, I would think that if Wirfs is there at 10, they would take Wirfs. But, most signs are pointing towards Andrew Thomas out of Georgia for them to take him at 10. Jedrick Willis is another guy, and Mekhi Becton is another guy there. So you got 4 guys the Browns are primarily looking at. I would say just because those are the 4 highest, the highest rated guys coming out. But there's a lot of left tackles in this draft, and who knows if Isaiah Simmons is sitting there at 10, you got to take Isaiah Simmons because, 1, he'd be the best player on the board. 2, they need a linebacker. And 3, there's this second tier of linebacker that maybe if the Browns wanted to jump back in the first round, or maybe a guy like Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State is sitting there early on in the second round, and the Browns can take him there. So I think they have a game plan. I know what we think their game plan is, but with a new regime, you never know.
What do you think the chances are that Odell gets traded, or has that noise come and gone?
That noise has come and gone. It's come and gone. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think they're sitting there going, hey, we've got Jarvis Landry, we've got Odell Beckham Jr., and by the way, we don't have to worry about him showing up for OTAs now, do we? We don't have to worry about that. That seems to be the That's the big stick. Oh, wow, he wasn't here for OTAs. Oh, he wasn't here. Okay. All right. Well, guess what? You don't have to worry about that now. So everybody can have the same complaint.
Andy, final question. So if they get a left tackle one way or another, is there a glaring need on this team, or is the rest of the draft just depth, and then finally guys just need to get it done? They need to perform.
The glaring need to me still is linebacker because, Mac Wilson had a good year in his first year last year. So Tony Takitaki was a guy that was drafted before him and just really never did anything last year. So linebacker is going to be a really, really interesting situation for the Browns next year. And, they want to just make sure that they fill some needs there. I think they're going to have to go out and go get another linebacker, or let's see how many linebackers they draft in the draft. I think that's another way to look at it. But even if you're drafting these guys, you're still going to be young. And there are Browns fans that wish that they would have kept Joe Schobert. So, but, is Schobert a guy who was a byproduct of an offensive or a defensive line that let guys through so that Schobert had a ton of tackles and led the team in tackles? I don't know. And we're going to find that out real quick. So, but I do think they're young at linebacker. They need help at linebacker. I think that could be a real weakness next year for them.
Well, Schobert and Blake Martinez were the two linebackers who had gaudy stats in which both their teams, the Browns and the Packers, let them go because they feel that they're just a product of the system. And obviously other teams thought, no, they're really good linebackers. The good thing, Andy, is Cleveland's still got money. They can sign some of these veteran free agents that are out there after the draft. They've got a lot more cash than a lot of teams do. So, Andy, all the best to you and the family. Stay safe. Good luck. Thanks so much.
No, I'm going to go grab a beer in the teacher's lounge right now. All right, I'll see you.
Get after it.
Andy Baskin,
Get after it, Andy.
92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Follow Andy on Twitter at Andy_Baskin. He's just kind of in and out, and he's doing really well in phys ed.
In the Xbox. Yep.
That's a great scouting report.
That is
on the
really
teenage
something.
son right there. That's spectacular. Andy Baskin, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. We'll talk a little NBA after the top of the hour with Keith Smith of NBC Sports and Yahoo. Brian Costello will lead us in a Jets conversation in about 45 minutes' time. Our poll question is Dolphins draft-oriented. Very simply, should they draft Tua? Absolutely, positively, yes. No. The injuries scare the out of me.
The answer is yes.
Those
everyone.
are the options.
The answer is yes.
Yes, it is. The answer is yes. To me, it's no if it's Justin Herbert, though. I'm not a Herbert guy. I would get a tackle at 5 and just keep on keeping on. Maybe worry about a quarterback later on in the draft or, put it off for another year. 17 minutes now before 8 o'clock.
They can't. If they don't come out of this draft with a quarterback and we start the show on 2 weeks from today and the Miami Dolphins haven't drafted a quarterback, I can't wait to do that show. We're going to get phone calls, and we don't even get phone calls anymore.
Well, the Dolphins are one of a handful of teams that are, quote-unquote, doing a lot of homework on Jordan Love because, Mark, I believe that's one of those where if they can't get who they want at 5, then maybe they take Jordan Love at 18.
Perfect.